So I recently recognized something about myself and I kind of want to talk about it today. I'm not really the type of person who really struggles with having a bunch of ideas or anything like that. Matter of fact, I feel like I always have some type of idea. I think that my struggle is knowing what I should or should not be executing at any given time. And I feel like I've always been like this very imaginative person, very much visionary. Like, very much the type of person who kind of sees things 5 steps ahead, and I can picture the next series, I can picture the next potential product, I can picture the next version of what this brand that I'm building can really become. So, my brain is not really lacking in the creativity space. I think it really overflows with creativity, but I think that the problem is, or what I really started to notice, is that I often live more in the imagined future that I have for not just my life, but my work. So, like, because I'm living so far into the future, I'm having a hard time with committing to the commitments that I have right now. Okay. And that tension between vision and reality is what led me to do something that I've never really done before. I've thought of doing, never really done it. So I'm doing it now for the first time. I created a personal curriculum because I just realized that if I am going to step into what the Lord has called me to do, which is to create content, and if my goal is by the end of 2026 to be a full time content creator, there's some personal development that needs to happen simultaneously to ensure that we get to the goal. Okay. So, for context, I just want to kind of like give you a bit of background before I show you what my personal curriculum is. For context, in February, like towards the tail end of February, I was on a reset call inside of like a productivity membership that I'm a part of. And we meet multiple times a week, every week, sometimes for an hour, sometimes for 3 hours. And we basically do very focused work blocks around whatever it is that we've committed to doing this year. And my goal for this entire year is to become a full time content creator, which looks like me monetizing my content creation either through whatever platforms I'm on or through digital products and or services that I create. But the focal point of what I do is content creation. So kind of like reverse engineering that, my goal for Q1 was to simply just post every week consistently on YouTube. Okay. Publish one YouTube video every single week for the next 12 weeks. And girl, I have been doing exactly that. Okay. Kudos to myself. I feel really good about that. Right. And I think that that's important to kind of say because I want to kind of preface that it's not an episode where I'm kind of trying to share a story of me falling off or me failing or being distracted or not taking my work seriously. It's actually like the opposite. Even in the simplicity of like that commitment of like showing up every single week and creating content on YouTube every single, I found natural extensions that made a lot of sense that I could add to the mix. Like I started my Substack, but that wasn't really extra work because I naturally am used to when I record a YouTube video, there is a newsletter that I pair with it. And I found that Substack is another opportunity to create community and grow. And so it supported the YouTube videos that I wanted to commit to. And it allowed me to expand on my ideas and my thoughts in more written form and still grow community. So that was an aligned move, in my opinion. I also created a digital product, but it wasn't a random digital product, right? It was a system that I was already using for my content creation. This is the system that I use to develop my strategy. And it is the exact system that I use week to week to ideate, to script out my content, to have my script right in front of me, even now as I'm like recording this video. So it was a simple digital product that I can literally clean up and launch, create a small little sales page and launch that product. It didn't feel like something that was taking away from my focus because it is literally what I'm doing, which by the way, if you want the brand world brain is what I'm currently calling it. But like if you want a brain to help support your call to content creation, you know that the Lord is calling you to create content online, but you kind of second guessing yourself along the way and you need a system to help you show up in a sustainable but a consistent way. This system is definitely for you. Please definitely check the first pinned comment or the description box below so that you could get access to that. Okay. So coming back on paper, like I said, from me showing up consistently on YouTube and then adding these two legs of like starting my Substack and launching this digital product, like on paper, everything makes complete sense. Execution wise, I was being consistent. I've been showing up every single week on YouTube, right? But mentally, girl, I was kind of like sprinting ahead while I was editing this week's video. I was thinking about a series for next quarter. While I was writing one Substack, I was imagining a paid newsletter extension or like, how can I do some type of community in an extended version using Substack instead of Patreon or instead of Circle? Like, my brain was like, like, that was my brain, right? While I was refining one digital product, I was conceptualizing three different types of offers that I can kind of launch. And how do I connect the dots between those two things? And how do I bridge the gap? And girl, just overthinking. I'm talking new ideas, new series, new expansions, new systems, new. Like it was always something. And none of them were really like bad ideas. And that's what kind of made it really confusing for me because when your ideas are bad, it's like it's easy to just dismiss them. It's easy to kind of put them to the side and be like, okay, it's not a good idea. There's no need for me to kind of pursue this thing. But when the idea is good and you see the potential in the idea, girls, we love potential. We love potential. So when you see that, when they feel alive and they feel exciting, they start to feel really urgent. And that urgency is what was creating this exhaustion in me. So, like, I was being consistent and doing the things that I said I was going to do. But because I had all of these additional ideas on top of the things that I said I was going to do, and I was trying to find ways to execute on top of that, it was creating exhaustion. And it kind of like left me feeling like, oh my God, like, I'm not even doing the things that I said I'm gonna. It felt like I wasn't actually committing to the things that I said because while I was trying to get them things done in reality, my mind was constantly living in possibility. Possibility is infinite and we love her. We love that. But reality is very finite. We only have a limited amount of time every single day to do the things that we need to do and to do the things that we're called to do, right? We have our regular life responsibilities that we have to kind of do every single day. But then there's the things that we feel called to, like for me, content creation. And then there are different extensions of that that kind of add to it. Like we only have 24 hours in a day. 8 of those hours are dedicated to sleep. And then the rest of that time, that 16-hour block, we still have our regular responsibilities. I'm a wife. I'm a student. I have homework. Okay. I have friends and family that I want to show up for and be there for. And then on top of that, it's the things that I feel called to, right? So we only have so much time to get all of the things done. And while I was executing consistently, internally, I kept feeling like I was somehow behind with everything that I had to do. Like I always felt like I was not doing enough. And I'm literally talking about January and February. That is how I felt. During that reset session, that is what I was able to gather. But that pressure wasn't actually coming from the goal itself or like the space I had allotted within my calendar. It was coming from myself, my internal compass, and the imagination, my mind, my visionary brain was the thing that was fueling that. And that's what made me realize that the issue really isn't my output, it is my mental pace. My mind was moving faster than the capacity I had for my current commitments and the commitments that I could possibly add onto that, right? And when your imagination outruns your current commitments, you start to feel inadequate, even though you are being faithful to the things that you said that you were going to do. And that's really the problem. So, in knowing all of this, I decided I think it would be really fun to create a personal curriculum that would help me to maintain my creativity, but park my creativity, right? All of these ideas that I have, I needed to put them somewhere. I needed to park them somewhere so that I can show up for my actual commitments without diluting my imaginative nature. Cause that's not what I want to do. Like, I don't want to like dismiss my creativity and say, no, Rose, you can't imagine at all. You can't be a visionary at all. You can't do these things at all. Cause that's just not how I'm wired. I naturally see things. I naturally think 5, 10 steps ahead. What I need to do is manage that and bring discipline to that so that I can show up and do the things that I say I'm going to do without creating any additional exhaustion to my life. Okay. Now let's go ahead and get into this personal curriculum. Okay, girls. So this is my personal curriculum dashboard. And as you can see, it's very simple. Okay, because this is something I literally created in a day. In a day, and I'm very familiar with Notion and the way that the system works. And so it was kind of simple to first of all create it, but also just make it custom to me and how I like to kind of view a dashboard. And with time, this will obviously grow and just become something super duper special that I can always review whenever I'm like going back into anything that I've learned within this practice of having a personal curriculum, I should say. Just to kind of give a brief overview, as you can see on the left, it's just like a links section. So anything that I'm actively needing access to as it pertains to the personal curriculum dashboard, I plan to link it there for right now based off of the personal curriculum that I have for the month of March. I have my idea parking lot, which we'll get into later. Then on this right hand side, you see this table is a gallery layout. I did a gallery layout because I just like everything to look a little bit more visual. What's also very cool about this is that you can do multiple personal curriculums within the month, or I'm going by month, by the way, for this. But you can also go quarterly and choose 3 personal curriculums or more, like however many personal curriculums that you want, I can do that depending on the season or whatever it is that I'm learning. For the month of March, though, I'm only focusing on 1 personal curriculum. But if I wanted to add an additional personal curriculum, all I would have to do is hit add new page, and then everything about a personal curriculum would populate here. I feel so proud of this system because being just used to Notion and how the Notion system works and stuff like that, and just being able to kind of create a template quickly. I think I got this whole entire system done in what, less than 2 hours. But it was super easy, super simple, and it's something that I know I can always use anytime I am creating some form of personal curriculum. So I'm just gonna go ahead and delete this because I'm only focusing on one for the month of March. And then underneath at the very bottom of the dashboard is my reflections. No matter the personal curriculum that I'm doing, this is gonna be a running list of like, think of them as like journal entries of what I'm reflecting on, what I'm learning as I'm moving through the personal curriculum. If I have assigned myself a book or a movie, an article, and I have thoughts on it, I can add it to my personal reflections. And then I can actually link the specific personal curriculum to that particular reflection, which is just good for tracking and things like that. I can also put a date so that I know and I'm aware, oh, at this particular time of my life, this is how I was thinking about this particular personal curriculum and stuff. So I'm going to open up one of these reflections so you can kind of see. Yesterday, March 1st, is when I actually set this up. Today is March 2nd at the time of me recording this in the hopes that I get this up on YouTube March 3rd. I don't mind sharing this reflection just so that you can have some more context to my thoughts as I was done with creating this whole dashboard. So today, all I did was set up my personal curriculum dashboard, and I am so excited about it. LOL. It feels like I have something to look forward to. And I think this thing really helps me to be a student again. If you don't know, I talk about this quite often in some of my videos where I shared that there was a season of life, I think this was early 2024, where the Lord challenged me while I was literally reading a book. And he was like, why don't you like learning? And I was taken aback, super confused. Was like, what do you mean? I'm literally reading a book right now. And he wasn't lying when he asked me that question because a lot of what I was doing was, for one, a little bit performative, but for two, I was just afraid of learning in general. I was afraid of being a student. I was afraid of like letting my curiosities take me where they wanted to go. And what the Holy Spirit did was really take me back to my childhood. And he showed me how much of a curious cat I was. I was so curious to my detriment a little bit, but I was a super curious girl. And for whatever reason, in that season, I kind of grew fearful of learning more and just being curious and exploring things and what would come with that and all of these things. There are so many what if this, what if that, that I feel like was making it difficult for me to lean into my curiosities. And so when the Lord revealed this to me for the last few years, I've actually been really trying to be intentional about being curious and I will say it's not easy to go back to how you naturally were, but I'm enjoying the process. And I'm trying my best. And I feel like more now than ever with this personal curriculum, going back to this journal entry, I am back to being a student again and pursuing learning things. And I think that that is very exciting. So I'm super excited about this whole personal curriculum thing. And I also did a little blurb about like the books that I want to get and all the things, which let's just go ahead and get right into it. So the first thing that I wanted to do is share with you how the page for each personal curriculum is set up. So I assign a month, the status, whether it's in progress or not in progress, any categories that I want to kind of keep track of, my start date and end date. For this one, it's definitely March 1st to March 31st. And what's really cool is I can also link or relate a project to this, and I related it to my content creation calendar, which is something that I have launched. If you want access to that, girl, description box. But like it's just a system that I'm using to create content. And like basically for every personal curriculum that I do, I'm gonna create a project essentially where it's me creating a piece of content, whether for YouTube or Substack. So we'll get into that a little bit later. But I just wanted to kind of show you everything that's here. And then at the end of my personal curriculum time, like on March 31st, I want to write an outcome summary of this entire thing, what I learned, what I processed through, how I'm thinking about it going forward, etc. Okay, so going back to first choosing a theme or a topic. Okay, so when I began thinking about this whole curriculum thing, I didn't want to just kind of start with resources. I really wanted to start with examining where I was. Like I mentioned before, the whole idea came from a reset session that I did towards the end of February to kind of like reflect back on how my February month went. And it was in that reflection that I gained an understanding of how I was processing these ideas that I was constantly getting and how it was impacting my mental state and therefore how I was viewing life and how I was viewing the way that I was showing up and doing the things that the Lord was calling me to do. And so for me, that inspired this personal curriculum. And so I wanted to structure the theme and the topic around that idea. As I sat with that, I realized that my tension was more so about pace and the fact that my imagination has the tendency of moving faster than my actual capacity. And my mind generates possibility at the speed that literally my current responsibilities cannot carry. And so over time, that gap created a lot of internal pressure for me. And so the theme that emerged out of that for me for the month of March was creative discipline. And creative discipline to me is the practice of honoring inspiration while still living within the structure that you set for yourself. I think it's easy that as a creative, you like to go with the flow and like whatever sparks inspiration, you just run with it. And I think that there's beauty in that. But I also think that there needs to be a level of discipline to actually allow your creative ideas or the endeavors that you set out for yourself to actually come into fruition. And so I wanted to make sure that I was learning how to welcome all of my new ideas without allowing them to dictate the way that I moved. And I feel like this is the integration of like having good vision, but also following through on the things that you say you're going to do. And I think that once I named that tension, the curriculum just became very clear for me. And it also became very clear that March was not about producing more things, but about focusing on what I said I was going to do and letting my creative mind do what my creative mind does, but parking those ideas somewhere in a way that allows me to practice discipline. So within the actual template itself, you can see I chose the topic name, which was creative discipline. And I talked about why this topic now, and I kind of described that there. I also kind of talked about what season that I'm in that makes this topic relevant to me, and then the outcome that I want to experience by the end of this course for my personal curriculum. And so for me, by the end of March, I really want to see all of my ideas and then be able to say, I didn't get ahead of myself by trying to execute ahead of time, but I also want to be able to select 1 to 2 ideas that I can pursue for the following quarter. Now we can go into like books and supporting material and like the lab, like the actual learning, what is going on. So there are 3 areas specifically. It is like my core resources, which are my books, supporting materials, but creating boundaries within these supporting materials, and then the active lab that I'm doing so that I can actually make a practice of the thing that I'm trying to learn. Let's start with the book. So, after choosing a theme, I knew that I needed some sort of anchor to make this learning very practical. And I really wanted materials that would shape my thinking consistently throughout the month. And so I wanted a balance between both instruction and story because I feel like I learned deeply through both a framework and then a narrative at the same time. And I love a good fiction book. Okay. Like I am not a big nonfiction reader, but I know that there are certain instances when they are important in order to have better understanding about certain things. And so you can even see here, because of this thing that I know about myself, I even opted to do audio. Like the format for how I'm gonna read my nonfiction book is like audio, whereas for my fiction book, I'm gonna read a physical book that I'm either going to go to Barnes and purchase or go to the library because I've been meaning to go and get a library card for the longest time now. And so for my nonfiction, I chose The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. And again, like I'm listening to it on audio. And what I really appreciate about this book in particular, as it pertains to my goal of like creative discipline, is that it really names resistance clearly. Like I was listening to the audiobook this morning, actually, and the man was going on and on and on and on about resistance. And I feel like he does a pretty good job about like talking about or vilifying resistance within the creative process and how sometimes we allow resistance to stop us from fulfilling the things that we say that we're going to do. And so I feel like it really speaks directly to the inner friction that shows up when any of us are starting to pursue the meaningful work that we feel called to. And I also feel like it keeps the theme of discipline very close to the surface. So, like, we're not veering off into all of these different things, but there's this consistent undercurrent of discipline, the discipline that is needed as an artist or as a creative person, and how that's basically war. You're warring for your creativity in a sense. And so I like the book so far and I'm excited to continue listening to it. I think that one of the biggest things that I do need to do though is like make sure that I'm dedicating like an hour of time, not to just reading the book, but like giving myself a dedicated time to do my personal curriculum. An hour a day is what I have as far as capacity goes. And so if I choose to listen to The War of Art, for example, I want to make sure I wanna make sure that when I'm listening to it, I'm also kind of taking notes and jotting down some of my findings and what I'm learning and things of that sort. For fiction, I actually chose to read the book Little Women by Louisa May Alcott, and I am gonna be reading a physical copy of that book because, again, I love a nonfiction book. I enjoy flipping through the pages and just being immersed in that world and allowing it to kinda, like, fill my mind and allowing myself to see what it looks like in my brain. I love stuff like that. And again, there's something about turning those pages that slows me down and just makes me get real comfortable and cozy with whatever it is that I'm reading. I also really wanted to observe discipline embodied in like character form, like a fictional story, because I enjoy learning like that. And I wanted to watch how ambition and creativity and family and responsibility and growth coexist within that narrative. And I feel like fiction is going to allow me to watch that type of formation unfold over time in somebody's life through a fictional lens. And I think that together, these two books are going to hold tension in a very healthy way. I feel like one speaks directly to the knowledge and the practicalness of what I need to know and learn. And the other is going to really shape my imagination, which is something that I thoroughly enjoy in life in general, but it's also gonna encourage a lot of learning too. And I feel like that pairing feels really, really good to me. So those are the 2 books that I'm gonna be reading. Before we go to the lab, I wanna talk about, like, some of my supporting material and how and why I'm doing supporting material with boundaries. As I thought through the structure of this curriculum, I knew that supplementary material was going to be good for me, right? I know that like I enjoy the occasional podcast. I enjoy the occasional like newsletter. I enjoy watching a interview every now and again and things like that. Or like even watching like an adaptation of a film. Like Colleen Hoover has a book that I have never read, but I saw the movie and I'm like, "Ooh, this is gonna be good. I might wanna read the book." Like, I like stuff like that because it just, again, allows me to just be immersed in that world. And so I feel like they help me see all the ideas that are being presented in many different angles, in many different ways. It's like engaging all of my senses. At the same time, though, I also know that I have a tendency to overconsume stuff when I'm excited about something. And I feel like I have an addictive personality. And I can easily tell myself that, like, I'm doing this for this reason. I'm researching or gathering for inspiration. And before I know it, I'm trying to absorb more than I can actually integrate into my life. And like, I want this personal curriculum thing to be something that I'm able to grow in, but I also want it to be enjoyable. So, my boundary that I set for myself here is that I'm not allowing myself to consume more than two supplementary pieces per week because I have other things to do. I'm in literal school. So, I have reading to do for school stuff too. I need to just be mindful with the amount of stuff that I'm giving to myself to consume as far as supplementary or supporting material goes. So for me, at least for now, and I'm giving myself room to kind of like grow into this, but like for now, one of the supporting materials that I want is to watch the actual Little Women movie. I think that'll be a fun little thing that I get to do. Now, let's go into the lab specifically. This is where I get to experiment and like actually test things, okay? Every curriculum I feel like needs some type of embodied component because you don't want everything to kind of stay theoretical in your brain. What's the purpose of learning if you can't make it practical? Like literally, I'm so serious. Like what's the purpose of learning if you cannot like make it something plain in your life? So, I wanted something that would actually confront my habitual pattern that I need to break with all of these ideas that I'm constantly getting, and that is where my idea fast comes into play. And the whole goal of the idea fast is to essentially allow myself to capture every idea. However, I cannot execute on any of them unless they were pre-committed before March began, but I cannot like execute on any idea until March is over. And I think that this is good because it allows me to be in a position where every idea that I have is allowed to come to the surface. So I'm not like beating myself up about certain things like that. It doesn't make me suppress my inspiration. I'm not going to shame my imagination. Like, I don't want to do that. I want, like, when a new idea pops into my mind, when it's a new series or a new concept or a new product or a new direction or whatever, I'm going to allow myself to capture it. But my system, the idea parking lot, is going to stop me from executing it. It's just an opportunity for me to capture it, write down as much detail as I possibly want to around this idea, maybe add a tag to it or something like that, give it a cute title, but I don't go any further than that. And again, it allows me to stay in that space of being imaginative, being visionary, being creative, but not moving forward and having the discipline that I need to actually pause before I move forward. Like, I don't need to do this thing right now. And I think that the part that I love most about this is that once I'm done capturing this thing, I just close it. I'm done with it. And then I say a prayer that brings God into the midst of this, which is super duper important for me as a believer. So basically, I just thank God for the way that my mind works, right? Because I think that this is a gift. This is a gift that the Lord has given me. And I acknowledge imagination as that gift, as a gift from the Lord. And I also ask the Holy Spirit to give me the discipline that I need to do the things that I said I'm going to do, right? I ask for the strength to stay faithful to what I already committed to for the month or for the quarter. And I think that that's really, really, really important, especially as creative people. I feel like this practice is going to reframe discipline in my life and it's going to become a spiritual act, like where I really get to invite God into the mix. And it becomes a way of aligning my pace with my promises. Like, I become the person who keeps the promises that she makes to herself. She's fully exploring her creative endeavors, but she brings them to completion. Like, she completes what she says that she's going to complete, and she does what she says she's going to do. And I feel like this is how I want to experience the lab within this whole entire process. And then finally, the last part of the curriculum is the end of month project. And this is where I wanted to do a like based off of my goal. Okay. So my goal is to become a full-time content creator by the end of the year. And I want to create a piece of content every single week on my priority platform, which is YouTube. I might up that amount in Q2, but for now, it's a video a week, right? And so my end of month project for my personal curriculum is going to be essentially a written or video essay sharing the wrap up of my personal curriculum. I didn't want to just move through March and simply check off, oh, I did this resource or I read this book and that book. I really wanted to synthesize what this process revealed to me. So whether it's Substack, YouTube, or maybe even both, considering the way that I like to create content, in it, I want to really share all of the ideas that surfaced during March and what it felt like to refrain from executing them. And so for me, the title is like, I had so many ideas in March and I didn't execute any of them. And I feel like that's a fun title because it's like almost clickbaity, not in a bad way, because I am talking about all the ideas and the fact that I did not execute on them. But it's almost as if it's calling those people who are struggling with executing on their ideas, but giving them a different way to view that and giving them a new practice to consider. And something that I know about myself is as a learner, one of the great ways in which I learn is through teaching. Like, as I learn, I like to tell people what I learned because it helps me. First of all, I'm excited. Okay. I'm excited to share the things that I just learned, but also it helps me to retain the information that I'm sharing with them. And also, I find myself explaining it in a more simplified way when I'm trying to make it make sense to other people. And so that's something that I'm really, really excited about. I'm excited to talk about what I learned, about my pace with execution. I'm excited to talk about my own ambitions because, girl, I'm actually quite ambitious and I didn't realize that. I think that this is where I need to be more intentional about having godly ambition. Like, there's a difference between ambition and godly ambition. Ambition is where, like, you have all of these things that you want to do and you're just going after it. But godly ambition is like pursuing the things that the Lord has told you to do specifically. There's a difference, right? And I think that I need to lean, like, be okay with being ambitious, but lean into godly ambition at the end of the day. And also, I'm really excited to learn about my emotional relationship with expansion and why I'm always trying to do this new thing all the time, because that's something that I did a lot when I was in online business. I'm always launching something new, and that burned me out very quickly. So I'm excited to learn about it. I think I'm just going to continue to do what I know I'm supposed to do, which is create a piece of content. And so this project will be a way of doing exactly that, a way for me to really pause and articulate what has changed for me as a result of this personal curriculum, but also still doing what God told me to do, which is to create content from the standpoint of a student. I actually posted a video last week and wrote a Substack about how I'm taking off my expert hat. I'm preferring to create content from the angle of not being an expert, but like from the angle of my own experiences and what I'm learning from my own experiences. And I think that this particular end of month project is really going to help me to do that and really close the loop on this whole entire personal curriculum. So I'm really excited about this, which, by the way, this is the script template that I have for every piece of content that I create. And I'll actually create a dedicated video where I kind of break more of this stuff down as far as like content creation and stuff like that goes. So be on the lookout for that. But if you want access to this template, girl, you can literally purchase it in the description box below. I'm just saying so that you can have access to that. But yeah, girl, this is literally my entire personal curriculum for the month of March. And what I really want to do is to share with you, you know, how this kind of like relates and connects to the goal that I have of becoming a full-time content creator. So yeah, I really feel like this closes the loop for what it is that I'm going to be learning in the month of March. And I'm just, again, really excited about the potential of what this personal curriculum is going to be in my life, what it can potentially be in the work that I get to do online in general. But again, you know how my brain, she loves to run ahead. So like with all of the ideas that I do have for it, we're gonna park it. I already have an idea brewing in my mind right now. We're gonna park that idea, okay? Maybe I can show you. No, let me chill out. Anyways, now like I said, I want to kind of bridge this back to how this connects to me being a full-time content creator and things like that. And when I say that my long-term goal is to become a full-time content creator, I don't just mean I want to replace my income with my content creation, right? I mean, like, what I really mean is that I want to build a body of work that is stable, a body of work that is very thoughtful, a body of work that can last, that endures through the noise and the trends that happen online. Like personal curriculum, we can say that it is a trend, but I think it's a trend that I can incorporate into the work that I feel called to do in a very thoughtful way. I really want to create from depth and not from just what sparks in any given moment. And I really want the work that I do here online to really carry weight over a period of time, not just for you who might be watching this video, but for me, like I want to be able to see and watch back on my videos and see a woman who is growing, who is becoming more and more like who God has called her to become, which is more like Jesus. I want to see a woman who is working, who is doing the work, who is doing exactly what God has called her to do, who is actively in obedience, who is impacting the girls. You know what I'm saying? And when I sat with this vision, something that I realized that was very sobering, might I add, is that a full-time content creator cannot afford to be internally frantic. And this is kind of like where this all connects. If my mind is constantly sprinting towards the next launch, the next expansion, the next idea, then even if I reach the milestone of doing this full time, I will carry the same internal pace with me. And I don't want to do that. Like, I will simply be anxious at a higher level of output. And I feel like that's gross. That is not the future I intend to build for myself or build towards. Like, that's not the goal here. I wanna live a cozy life. When I say cozy, that doesn't mean a life without struggle or pain, but I'm not gonna add any pressure to myself unnecessarily. I'm not gonna add struggle to me for no reason. God is already going to allow those things to happen so that I can grow. Okay, we get it. We got it. Good. But I'm not gonna add it to myself for no reason. Like becoming a full-time content creator is not just a financial shift for me. It is like a capacity shift. It is a spiritually maturing shift. It requires emotional steadiness. It requires the ability to live inside the commitments that I've made for myself without being seduced by every new possibility that comes in my mind or from what I'm even consuming online, right? It requires the kind of discipline that allows creativity to compound rather than just kind of be scattered and all over the place. Like I don't want to live like that. And right now, I feel like I'm actively training for that future that I desire. And I feel like this personal curriculum is part of that training, which makes it so exciting. I feel like by choosing to slow down my internal pace, I'm strengthening a muscle that I will need later. By practicing restraint with my ideas now, I am learning how to steward them long term. By focusing on one weekly YouTube video and allowing that to anchor my quarter for the rest of this quarter, because we might up it just a bit in Q2, we'll see. I feel like I'm beginning to build trust with myself and trust that I can set a goal that I will honor. Trust that I can resist expansion until it is time. Trust that I do not need to chase every good idea to prove that I'm serious about doing the things that God has called me to do. That there is a difference between being ambitious, but being godly ambitious. If I want to live a sustainable creative life, a full time creative life, I need to be godly ambitious, right? More than I need to have speed, like the speed of growth that most people would be chasing after. And I feel like this shift in internal pace really supports my long-term vision because it's going to build durability. It's going to teach me how to stay. It's going to teach me how to let something grow before I uproot it and plant something new, which is something that I'm so used to doing. I did this all the time. I'm learning to let my work mature because while I'm actively doing the work, I'm actually doing the internal work too. Real momentum is built through repetition, consistent repetition over and over again, and letting your yeses be yes and your nos be nos. It is built through consistency. It is built through returning to the same commitment again and again and again until it compounds. Like if I can master that now at the level that I'm at right now, I only have like what 759 subscribers on YouTube, 633 subscribers on Substack, 600 something on TikTok, right? Like those are the platforms that I'm choosing to kind of give my energy to in this season. If I can master that now with the level of community that I have on all of these platforms now, while I'm building towards something that's more full time, I will enter my full time season with stability instead of a bunch of anxiety and chaos. And that is a healthy pursuit and a pursuit I think is worth it in the end. This curriculum for me is less about studying a bunch of books and studying more about all the things. And it's more so about growing into the person that God is calling me to be. It is me acknowledging that the version of me who becomes a full-time content creator is not just a more productive kind of girl, but she's a grounded girl. Like she is less reactive to every spark of inspiration that comes because it's gonna come, right? She has some rhythm. She has a rhythm, okay? And rhythm is really what sustains creative work over the years. And that's why this matters. And this is how that's connected to my pursuit of being a full-time content creator. March is a really small container to learn a lot of this stuff or put into practice really all of this stuff. But the internal shift is what's really preparing me for something that's so much larger. And it's not like it ends in March. It's going to continue. Like my idea parking lot is going to now become something that I actively do all the time now, especially when I set goals for myself. I feel like this is training me to become that future version of myself, which is a full-time content creator, but not a anxiety prone one, a more conscious one. So if this episode resonated with you, you don't need to wait for permission to do something similar or to do the same thing, right? You can design your own personal curriculum this month and you can start by choosing a theme, right? Don't be abstract about it, but really be honest about where you are right now, what you're wanting to learn, what you're wanting to grow in, and like niche into that. What is like the tension that you're actually navigating? Name it, and then like develop something around that. Then choose the things that are going to anchor you. Like, what are 1 to 2 core resources that will shape your thinking consistently? Like, don't overwhelm yourself. Like, a lot of people with these personal curriculums are trying to read tens, hundreds of books, a quarter, a year, whatever. Like, I don't want this process to be unenjoyable. I want to enjoy it. And I'm sure you would want to enjoy it too. So don't overload yourself with a bunch of stuff. Know that depth matters more than the volume of content that you're consuming for your personal curriculum. And add a boundary around your inputs too. Like decide how much you're going to consume and commit to staying within that container so that you don't overload or overwhelm yourself. And I also think it's really good to create a lab or some type of thing that is embodied, like homework, something that you can practice, something that forces you to practice what it is that you're studying in real time. And then I want you to decide on a project. Like I said, the type of learner that I learn from teaching as well. And so I think that it will be great for my final project to be a video on YouTube or a article on Substack and things like that. I feel like you don't need to be in university or college to learn something. You can literally create a learning path for yourself on your own. And if you're in a season where you feel called to do something, but you're struggling to name what it is that God is calling you to do, if you know that God is stirring something up in you, but you can't quite make sense of that direction, that's the type of conversation your girl loves to have. I actually offer one-to-one clarity sessions where we get to sit down together and really untangle what it is that you're sensing. We take a look at the season of life that you're in, your current capacity, the thing that you feel like God is calling you to do. And we kind of bring structure so that you're no longer feeling scattered at, oh my God, what should I do? What should I do? Like these clarity sessions are like amazing. So if you want something like that, definitely book it. And if you want maybe help designing your own personal curriculum, maybe that's something that we can do in that clarity session together. I think that that would be pretty fun. So do yourself a favor and like go to the comment section, first link, book your session with me or the description box below. You can go ahead and grab a seat there as well. Whether you do this on your own, you create your personal curriculum on your own, or you choose to do this with guidance, I just want to encourage you to not ignore the nudge to take ownership of your formation. Like you can become an active participator in your sanctification journey, Holy Spirit is doing what Holy Spirit does. He is the initiator of all those types of things, but we should also be actively participating alongside the spiritual disciplines that we do. How else can we actively participate in our growth and maturity as believers? So take ownership, girl. With that said, I love you with the love of Christ, and I hope to see you in the next episode. CTYL.